Hey, it's Chris with Life 180, and today I want to talk to you about one of the top arguments that I get from Index Universal Life agents all the time about why they prefer Index Universal Life over whole life insurance. Now, here we go. I just want to get into this. This is probably going to be a pretty quick video. Here's the bottom line. Index Universal Life agents will tell you that there's more upside and you have the downside protection. And so why not take advantage of that upside? When you average everything out, it's going to perform, there's more upside than a whole life policy. Here's where I'll tell you, they're 100% right, there is more upside. But here's the challenge with their mindset. A lot of their arguments, if you look at a lot of the whole life companies right now, they're paying out at a current rate of about 6 to 6.5. That's, a couple companies are a little under 6 on the dividend scale, but most of them are between 6 to 6.5. So if you take that into consideration, everybody who's running in Index Universal Life Insurance illustration right now at, let's say, 6.5%, that is assuming, that is the assumption. Right now, the current rate for a whole life policy, let's say it's 6.5, or let's say it's 6. Like you're given a little bit, but whatever. Let's just say it's 6, and they're illustrating at 6.5. The difference is the odds of a whole life policy being guaranteed at 6 are way better than you hitting that 6.5 because you're dealing with market volatility, you're dealing with uncontrolled costs and all these different things. But here's where it gets worse for me. Index Universal Life Insurance agents speak out of both sides of their mouth because they say, well, there's no guarantee that the whole life dividend is going to stay where it is. They've been reducing for the past 30 years. And guess what? They're right. They're absolutely 100% unequivocally accurate with that comment. Dividends, I can go back to the 80s, were 14% in a whole life policy, actually upwards of 16% in the early 80s. And right now they're in the 6 range, let's just say, right? So yes, they could keep going down, but the bottom line is a whole life insurance contract is guaranteed to be at 4% right now. Now, Regulation 7702 is throwing a curveball at that, but once again, I'm a big believer that's one of the better reasons to lock in a 4% guarantee while you can before they reduce the guaranteed limits on whole life. Might drop to 3.5% or 3% or even a little lower. Who knows? We don't know yet. But here's what I do know is that the argument of saying, well, guess what? The dividends are going down consistently. We know for a fact they'll never go down below 4, right? That we know. And here's my problem with that argument. The same reason that argument holds true for whole life, and it does hold true, don't get me wrong, like I'm not gonna argue that fact, but that same fact actually is the same reason that the companies, the IUL companies, have been reducing the cap rate inside of an Index Universal Life policy. And if you look back, one of the biggest things, if you've watched my videos before, I talk about a 401k, all the problems that I have with 401ks and IRAs and so on and so forth. The reason I have a problem with them is because everybody thinks of a 401k as kind of like the holy grail of where to put your money. Not everybody, but the classic financial world, they think about that. But the reality is I'm older than the 401k concept is, right? Like it literally wasn't instituted until 1981, right? So when you take the 401k into consideration, it's really just a financial experiment from 1981 to today. We have the first generation of people that work their entire lives leaning on a 401k, retiring, and the results are abysmal. That's why I call it a financial experiment. Here's the deal with Index Universal Life policies. They weren't created till 1997 for the most part, right? All the while, their cap rates were really high to begin with, just like whole life dividends have come down, cap rates in Index Universal Life policies have come down. And everybody who's running 6.5% assumed rates on for an assumption inside of an Index Universal Life is assuming that the cap rate is going to remain at, let's say, 10%, right? So if the dividend rate by nature is going to go down in a whole life policy, at least we know that it's going to be anywhere between, let's say, 4 and 6% consistently. Whereas the most you're going to get in an Index Universal Life is 10. You're going to get 0 on the down years, right? And they're illustrating it at 6.5, but what happens if the cap rate goes down to 9 or 8, right? What's that gonna do to the illustration? You're gonna have to go from 6.5 to 5 or 4.5. Now, in a best case scenario, you're gonna end up exactly where a whole life is gonna guarantee you to be, right? Like that's the biggest reason that I'm a big fan of whole life insurance and not Index Universal Life, because at least you can plan for anything that you know is going to happen. Inside of a whole life policy, you use it as a banking alternative. You get your gains, your returns outside of the policy in real estate, in a business, and flipping cars, and investing in crypto and trading and anything of that nature. You do, like, life insurance is a dangerous investment. Now, it can be done. I know some people that structure index universal life as alternatives to like a 401k or an IRA. There are certain circumstances where that makes sense to me. Not every circumstance. Sometimes people are better off in an IUL versus being in a 401k. That said, it's a very, very touchy subject. And I will say the reason I don't go there or ever talk about that is because I'm always about full optimization. And to me, while doing an IUL may be better than a 401k, there's still another level, to bring people to really help them achieve a more predictable financial result. Too many moving parts, too many variables, too much risk in an IUL. Like I said, because if you buy into the fact that whole life dividends are going to come down, which I actually do, if you believe that the markets are going to be where they're going and that the interest rate environment's going to remain low, that government's going to keep printing money, all these different things, and there's going to remain pressure on the market, then you have to buy into the fact that cap rates are going to come down on IULs. And so when you look at the assumptions inside of an illustration for an IUL, you have to take that into consideration. So that's all I have to say about that. If that doesn't make sense, I don't know what to tell you. I keep getting all these comments in my videos talking about how IULs are so great and the upside is too good, and compared to take risk in a whole life or to lock your money in a whole life where you don't have the upside of the returns. Guess what? That story worked a couple years ago when the cap rates were 14.5 and people would buy into it. But the math behind it now, if you just look at what's going on, it simply doesn't make sense. And you're only 1 or 2 percentage points on the cap rate go down to have a massive impact on the assumption that you're going to have inside of the IUL policy that's going to bring it right down in a best case scenario to match what a whole life policy is going to do for you. So anyway, if you found value in that, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel, helps the analytics, the YouTube. God love that sort of thing. And so if you haven't already, I'd be honored if you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, that way you get notified every time I release a new video. I'm trying to create a ton of content around this stuff to get education out there. I believe that what I'm talking about right now is so very important in the world. I know there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people searching for information to make financial decisions online right now about their financial livelihood, decisions that are going to impact the direction that that the rest of their financial lives are going to be impacted by. And so I want to make sure that I get this information out there. If you could share this video, I'd be super honored, super appreciated. You can tag me. Any of my social media handles are down below. Connect with me. I'd love to connect with you. And yeah, man, that's it. I hope you guys have a blessed, inspirational day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.